The avatars tell us that they come from the clouds of heaven. There are many passages which indicate that the Messianic era will be ushered in with miracles, such as in visions of the night, I beheld the likes of a human being who came with the clouds of heaven, and he was given an everlasting dominion which will never pass away. Now, this is really key because it's telling us that the avatar will be born on earth at a time when we will see the clouds of heaven, and that the avatar will come with the clouds of heaven. It doesn't necessarily say that the avatar will come upon that cloud, but will come with the clouds of heaven. And to me, this is a very important distinction because I believe that the avatar has to have a human form. The avatar, as in the example of the Christ child, as in the example of Buddha, took on a human form and took on the mantle of the human body in order to have compassion and to understand what it means to be human and live with all the limitations that we live with. So there's two things going on here. There are the avatars that are in the clouds and the avatars that come with the clouds of heaven. As I said at the beginning of our presentation, the avatars can appear as an apparition, and this is the form that the Virgin Mary appeared in. For example, here in Mexico, when she appeared as Our Lady of Guadalupe to Juan Diego, wearing her cloak of stars and her radiant and luminous body. She was in a material but immaterial form when she appeared to Juan Diego that in my view, matches the vision of the Tibetan rainbow light body. Christ rides upon the cloud as well in his ascension, as recorded in the book of Acts, chapter 1, verse 9 through 11. And after this, he said this, he was taken up before their very eyes, and a cloud hid him from their sight. They were looking intently up into the sky as he was going, when suddenly two men dressed in white stood beside them. These are the angels, the men in white. Men of Galilee, these angels said, why do you stand here looking into the sky? This same Jesus who has been taken from you into heaven will come back in the same way you have seen him go into heaven, riding upon the cloud. And in Christian art, going back to the 4th century in Egypt, where this image came from, this is a Coptic Christian image. In the ascension images of Christ, we see him sitting on a throne with a footstool with 4 wheels attached in the cloud, which is composed of concentric rings. When we see concentric rings in Christian art or in any other art, it symbolizes a portal, a vortex, but also sound and vibration as well. So what we're to visualize here is that this cloud is not like a cloud like you see in the sky. The cloud represents or symbolizes the portal, gateway, or cloud of light that the avatar rides upon. And in the detail, you see the 4 wheels at the base of the throne. Those 4 wheels are called the Ophanim. I call them the Hot Wheels of the angels because they represent the vehicle called the Merkaba upon which the avatars ride. And I liken this to a wormhole, where in a wormhole we see a transition, we see a vortex, and we see a throat. And that's exactly what we see in this image here of the ascension of Christ, is that he is ascending upon this cloud that is actually, in my view, a wormhole, a portal, or a vortex that is symbolized by the cloud. So over and over again in Christian art, you see the ascension image of Christ riding upon the cloud with the concentric rings that matches what we today think of as a wormhole. This is very important for where we're going in this discussion. Another example of Christ riding upon the cloud. Elijah ascended upon a chariot of fire that was covered in fire like a cloud. The Kabbalists speak of an angel, of a group of angels called the Ishim. They are astral beings, but they appear as human beings. And when an Ishim angel appears as a human, you can't tell the difference between this type of angel and a human being until this figure decides to reveal himself. There are 2 humans who joined the Ishim, Enoch and Elijah, and both have ascended to become angels. Elijah ascended upon his chariot of fire, presented here, looking like the cloud. Enoch ascended with the help of the archangel Michael. Some believe that the Ishim are the survivors of the translated or ascended pre-Adamic human races. The Kabbalists teach that there were many human races before Adam, and that there are surviving examples of these beings who ascended and reappear in human civilization to assist us. They're avatars. That's who those beings are. They inhabit an interdimensional, intergalactic realm that's referred to in the Kabbalistic text as the Teli, T-E-L-I. As angels are avatars of God, they are destined to come back to Earth to help humanity. And they're very much involved in human affairs. And as I'm saying, this is the avatars that are referred to in various traditions. And Christ seems to have fulfilled an aspect of that. And when Christ is portrayed ascending or traveling interdimensionally, as he is here, we see him with the concentric rings symbolizing a portal, gateway, wormhole into these interdimensional realms that he is able to travel upon. In fact, all avatars are able to travel interdimensionally in this way. Here's an example of an Egyptian avatar. This is one of the Ptolemaic pharaohs from the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, where we see him sitting on his feathered throne, feathered because it flies, with his resurrection stick, his lotus throne, his key of life, his crown of salvation, and his Ark of the Millions of Years that looks exactly like the way modern science portrays a wormhole. These are the key symbols of the avatars. This is exactly the same bit of symbolism that we see in the ascension of Christ. The throne that he's sitting on is the Merkaba, which is the same as the feathered throne of the Ptolemaic pharaoh, who transformed into an avatar. It's also the exact same symbols that we saw with Padmasambhava, the lotus throne, the resurrection stick, the crown of glory, the Vajra, the golden rays, the stargate or ring around the body. All three of them have exactly the same set of symbols that represent that they are part of this avatar consciousness, or have the avatarisk ability to travel interdimensionally through wormholes. This is a 6th century Syrian depiction, one of the earliest depictions of the ascension of Christ, where we see him ascending. We see the Ophanim wheels, the hot wheels. We see him in a rainbow ring. Same symbolism we saw a moment ago. And it also precisely matches Ezekiel's vision of the throne chariot, in which he saw a luminous humanoid being with a rainbow light, a brilliant light all around him, like that of a rainbow, in a cloud on a rainy day. Ezekiel is seeing an avatar and reporting the wheels within wheels of the Merkaba vehicle of this avatar, who in this instance is the Old Testament God Yahweh. This is the source for the Christian images of the ascension of Christ. It is the Merkaba, it is the interdimensional vehicle of the avatars. And when we talk about Christ returning on a cloud, this is what we see over and over again in Christian art. This is an example of the Second Coming or Judgment Day art from Russia from the 16th century. We see Christ up above in the cloud. We can see the translucent hot wheels at his feet. Beneath him is a device. It's his Adamastia throne, as it's called, with Mary and John the Baptist on either side, who are holding open the cloud and supporting the opening of this gateway or this wormhole. You see highlighted the Ophanim wheels, the hot wheels that symbolize Ezekiel's throne and the transportation vehicle of the avatars. We see the transition, we see the vortex, we see the throat. This is wormhole symbolism that is being portrayed to us. And we're also seeing very cleverly the Adamastia throne of Christ, which is actually the fully assembled Ark of the Covenant. I've discussed this in detail in past presentations, and I'm just passing through it here. to show that this symbolism appears over and over again in Judeo-Christian tradition, and it's ultimately the property of Christ, and it will be recovered at the time of the second coming. The key point that I want to make here, and the reason why I'm showing this, is because in the book of Hebrews, Jesus is introduced as a minister in the sanctuary and the true tent, which is set not by man, but by the Lord. The heavenly sanctuary is considered to be a real place, and Jesus has emerged from it. And this is what this art is portraying. In the lower registers, this images, that represents earth. The higher registers represent the higher dimensional realms out of which the Christ avatar and perhaps other avatars emerge. It's a higher dimensional reality. And there's a connection between the earthly reality and that higher dimensional reality. And that's what we need to call upon right now. The author of Hebrews affirms that the earthly sanctuary is a copy and shadow of the heavenly sanctuary. What that means is that you and I don't live in the real world. We live in a copy or shadow of the higher frequency, higher dimensional realm out of which the Christ avatar and other avatars emerge. This is fundamental. The reason why, as we're going to develop here, is because the Beijing Silicon Valley axis, the beast, wants to convince you that they have the power to create a new reality online, a simulated reality that is better than this one, and to convince our children to go and live in that reality. It's a mocking or mimicking of this very teaching that I'm describing here in the book of Hebrews, which very explicitly says that Christ and the avatars come from a higher dimensional reality. Elon Musk and other people that uphold the simulation hypothesis that we live in a fake world like a video game are trying presently to convince you that what I just said is nonsense, that there is no heavenly realm. There is no higher dimensional realm. You, my friend, live in a video game in their view. And the sooner you wake up to that reality, the better off you're going to be. And you're going to have to get comfortable with this idea that you don't matter. That's what they're saying with this simulated reality idea, that this is just a video game, that there is no reality for you outside of this game. Your only next best option, according to them, is to go live in their fake metaverse simulated reality that they're creating online. And I'm going to show that to you in just a moment. This is why it is imperative that we fully understand the nature of the avatars with a big A, and not these fake puny little guys that think they're like the be all end all of humanity. They think they are the masters of the human race. Bezos, Musk, these people, they're disgusting. They're demonic is what they are. I have no trouble saying that to you because they call each other out as demonic. And that's not me saying they're demonic. Musk goes around talking about this is all demonic technology. It takes a demon to know a demon, right? And that is what they are foisting on us right now. And going back and understanding these ancient understandings and teachings about higher frequency realms and how the avatars come from these realms is job one for us right now, because that is ultimately our salvation. Calling in that avatar, supporting the avatars that are on earth now in the form of the children that are among us, and also supporting a reality that accepts a spiritual foundation for our existence. Can you imagine a world where these guys take over and they just completely disavow any spiritual teaching that says there's an afterlife, or that ideas like reincarnation, that's simply you recycling in this video game? It's horrific to think about where they are going with this. And I'm going to give you a sense of this in some detail here in just a moment. But the key point for us right now is that these ancient texts tell us that the avatars come from a higher dimensional reality, and the reality that we live in is a copy or a shadow of that true reality. That is our base reality. That is called source in some contexts. That is the source reality. That is the place your soul came from, and you're temporarily inhabiting this realm. But these traditions assure us that ultimately we can ascend or return to our source reality. These demons are trying to completely sever that concept and convince you and your children that there is no source reality, that this is it. And you might as well go along with their program because there is nothing else for you. This is extremely important because if you've been watching the news anytime in the past year, you've seen videos like this.
Oh my gosh, man.
What you're watching, as you know, are glowing orbs of light, clouds of light in their own space. These are the most extraordinary videos in the UFO disclosure moment that we have available at this moment, and they are mind-blowing. They've been validated, of course, by the Pentagon. They were shot by Navy pilots beginning in 2004. They display a technology that is, in some people's estimation, 1,000 years in advance of anything that we know today. But here's the thing, we're looking at a video. When you look at these videos through the trained eye of an engineer or a physicist, here's what we find out. These craft that you were just looking at do not have any identifiable means of propulsion. They're moving around in their own space. They're hundreds of years, if not 1,000 or more years in advance of anything known to humans. Any craft, as they display, that can go from 80,000 feet to just above the ocean in less than 1 second, or travel 60 miles in 5 seconds, defy gravity, accelerate instantaneously, or speed along at hundreds of knots underwater, is technology beyond what we think of as humanly possible. It's beyond our physics, too. They're not of this world. And these craft are encountered every day by Navy, US Navy and Air Force pilots, and also by military pilots all around the world.